Welcome to Blue Talks.
Welcome to this Blue Talks podcast here at the University of Oxford. I'm John Ty, and I've got the honor today of interviewing Vanessa Benlolo. Welcome, Vanessa. And
Thank you.
What I'd like to do just to start with is just have you tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is you're doing at the moment.
So I'm Vanessa Benlolo, and I'm an international soul guide. I support clients in one-on-one sessions in healing from generational trauma, limiting beliefs, and discovering and embodying their purpose. And I do so through different programs and certification training programs. And I'm currently also in the process of launching the Soul Guiding Institute to teach others the skills that I believe that we need to thrive in the future and what is going to be needed for the future of humanity at this time.
Okay, and that kind of ties us into AI. We're going to talk a little bit about AI. So what I want to start with is the elephant in the room, which is, there's pros and cons to AI. People are scared of it. One of the things people are very afraid of is losing jobs. So, we talked about the saying, you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who's using AI. Mm-hmm. And so what I'd like to ask you is, as well as that, what are some of the key fears that you find people have when it comes to AI, and what would you say to kind of reassure them or not?
Mm-hmm. Good question. And it is something that a lot of people are concerned about at this time. I think immediately most people are concerned about being outpaced, meaning that AI can create a lot more quickly than they can or replace some of the skill sets that they have, and that they will eventually be either outdated or not have jobs or have their entire jobs completely displaced. I think that's the immediate concern most people have. Or some people also have the concerns about not knowing how to adopt AIs quickly and maybe lagging behind some of their counterparts. I think some people are concerned about that. And I think the fears run from that end of the spectrum all the way to the other end, where people fear, super AI taking over and there being an uprising and kind of, the vision that we see in like Terminator, the movie, and these things. So the fears kind of go from that range all the way to the range I discussed here. And I think some of the things that I can say to reassure people at this time is, at least currently at this moment, we really have what's called narrow AI, which means that it's used for specific tasks. Mm-hmm. And so because we're in this space right now, AI can be used as a tool to enhance our creativity, enhance our ingenuity. We just have to learn some new skills of how to prompt and interact with it, and how to have it be something that we can use alongside of ourselves. But I think in the next, maybe more intermediate future, we're going to be needing to develop some other skills that are skills that I would consider more human skills. So skills of, creativity, intuition, emotional intelligence, and even being able to think of how many different areas of things interact with each other. And I think those skills will still be very much skills that we need, that are human skills that AI isn't currently yet able to do. So I think the main focus is to begin to use AI as a tool and to develop other skills that are more considered the soft skills that humans have.
Yeah. Okay. So building on that in terms of, we talked about other people's sort of general fears. What are your thoughts in terms of kind of the pros and cons of where AI is going? Now, I know we can only look so far down the road, but what are some of the things that kind of worry you, perhaps? And what are some of the things that you think would be advantageous for people?
Mm-hmm. Great question here, too. And so, what I think worries me right now currently about AI is the fact that we are at kind of like an arms race where people just want to launch things as quickly as possible, to be the first to provide different tools, or be like the first person to, move AI along the spectrum of evolution for AI, in terms of going all the way from the first levels of AI, which are just plain assistants like Alexa and Siri, all the way to like full autonomous AI that can basically handle entire organizations, is that we are overlooking the aspects that are needed to be put in place in terms of the ethics, the safety of what is not really being looked at. And I think, that's both a worry, but it's also an invitation. And with that invitation of where do we put these things into place that can create safety for humanity, we have this opportunity to reflect within ourselves about what is relevant or important to us as humanity moving forward. And I think in that conversation, we're going to learn a lot more about ourselves as people. We're going to learn about what matters to us. We're going to have to, ask the big existential questions about our value systems as humans, or, what matters to us, what is okay for us. We're going to have to ask questions about the ethics, right? If AI creates something, do we give credit to AI? Is AI something that, just all these questions, is it something that we need to put things in place to protect? What are the limitations? And in answering all these questions, I think what we're really going to discover is that we're going to discover more about ourselves as a humanity and what really matters to us. So in some ways, I say it's kind of like group therapy for humanity. We're kind of all coming together in this space where we have to uncover all the aspects within ourselves that we've been afraid to look at, and we've kind of pushed into the shadows of ourselves. It's like this is now an opportunity for us to look at and integrate those aspects, which includes our fears, right? And so there we get to really learn who we are and choose what we create as a humanity. And I think for that reason, this is like a beautiful time period that we are in to collectively reflect on what matters to us as humans.
Yeah, and how would you facilitate that? I mean, what are your thoughts on actually getting people to do that? Because as you mentioned a moment ago, there's kind of an arms race, people rushing to get stuff out, which is understandable. It's this new technology, everybody's very interested in it. How do you get people to sort of reflect on that, the more philosophical side of it that I know that you're interested in, which is, that what does it reflect back to us about ourselves in terms of how we use AI? Mm-hmm. Is there any kind of guidance as to getting people to do that?
Well, I have a very unique perspective on this question that you're asking. So I'm going to answer it, of course, from my own perspective. And I think at this time, we aren't able ever to legislate morality, because a lot of the questions that are going to come up is around questions of what is right, what is wrong, what are we going to allow, what won't we allow? And because we've never been able to legislate morality, what I believe we really need to focus on is to evolve our consciousness as a human species. Because if we're not able to legislate morality, we can only legislate the behavior of things, right? The only thing that's really going to hold us into this maybe more ethical place is for us to transform as beings ourselves. And so that's where I really focus on, is to support people in evolving their own consciousness. And I think that's why I think AI and this AI revolution at this time is like the most beautiful opportunity that humanity has been presented, is to look at how we collectively are going to evolve. We've been in the past been looking at how we individually evolve. We've been looking at ourselves and doing inner work on an individual basis. But I think because AI is this aggregate being, right? It's aggregating data. It's aggregating all of this information, let's say. It's pulling from everywhere, and it's going to do that even at larger speeds, and it already has, than we are. This is now where we are stepping into this age of a collective evolution versus like a separatist individual perspective of evolution. And I think that's the invitation that AI provides us at this time.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think AI, we talked about this before, AI can do is do a lot of the time-consuming, kind of heavy lifting, some of the less creative stuff. So maybe talk a little bit about, because AI freeing us up to do more of that creative stuff and the reflective stuff and the human stuff, because I think that will perhaps allay some of the fears that people have in terms of, AI taking over and replacing us. And actually, depending on how you look at it, AI can actually free us up to be more of who we are and do that kind of evolution.
Yeah, I think you make a great point about AI allowing us to become more of who we are, because it is going to replace some of the more mundane tasks. And we are living in a world where we're inundated with things to do, like so many things to do, even to just take care of our homes or our families or in our jobs. And if those main tasks are being taken care of, it frees up our mental capacity to explore other more ingenious ideas, to make connections with people. You and I were speaking about earlier too, to, as a writer, instead of spending all this time writing and editing and kind of in, wherever writers write, in cafes and like they're closed in their rooms or maybe out in nature if they're lucky, but it will actually bring people out to then maybe do the interviews, to make deeper connections, to develop our emotional intelligence. And I think this is by AI freeing up our time that's being spent in more of these mundane tasks, we are able to now evolve our own selves by freeing up space and time to do things like meditate, to explore what it actually is to be here on the planet, or what our purpose actually is. And I do think that in the context of this conversation, that it's important to also look at the societal implications of this, because there will be some people and some tasks that are going to get displaced. And I do think it's society's responsibility to take a look at that and to provide vehicles for, people to retrain or choose a different career path that's more aligned. And I definitely believe that we should support that also financially. Like, that's something that I think that our society should support, is if there are people displaced, I don't think they should be left behind. And I know this is kind of an idealistic conversation that could have just gotten very political.
It's a real thing, isn't it? Because it's happening quickly, and it's happening, we're watching the AI space and seeing how rapidly it's evolving. You've got AI programming AI, you've got AI creating AI chips to make AI faster. So it's iterating and evolving really, really quickly. And a lot of people that aren't in the space aren't aware of that.
Correct.
And so, there are going to be sort of casualties in terms of jobs. Now, in the past, that evolution of technology has always created more new jobs.
Correct.
Very often better jobs. And maybe that goes back to what we were saying about being able to spend more time doing the human stuff, the creative stuff, and so on. So hopefully it'll free us up to do more of that sort of stuff and less of the drudgery. But that still means people are going to have to reskill and retrain, and because I think it's going to happen faster than people realize.
It will happen way faster than people realize. There are studies that shown, like, I think it took only a few months for ChatGPT to get to 1 million users. So everything is moving super quickly in this space. It's going to iterate much faster than anything we've seen. But I also think in a world where something and everything is moving so quickly, I think the invitation again is to slow down. Like, right? It's like, if everything is moving really fast and machines are moving really quickly and they're doing all the mundane stuff really quickly, then when we talked about it freeing up our time, it also frees up time for us to slow down.
That's true.
To be present, to connect with our family members. Maybe we'll even come back to having dinners together and actually hearing what our partner's day was like, or what our children are experiencing. And I think a lot of the value that we will gain is through those emotional connections and relationships. And I think that's really the important piece, is like, we can get caught up in this race to speed up along with it, which I think is nearly impossible to keep up with it, actually, because it's iterating itself, right? So we don't really have a choice there. But what we do have a choice is to reassess our values and to redirect our energy in the ways that are actually important in this human life.
Yeah, I think those are really good points. And I think, people can take take a lot away from that, I think, in terms of actually, this could be a really good thing. There's going to be some downsides. None of us know exactly how it's going to pan out, but being able to, get close to that elusive 4-hour work week that Tim Ferriss talks about, even if you don't, even if you love what you do and you want to work more than 4 hours, but having that time to spend with friends and family and do stuff, go for a walk or whatever it might be, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I also think what you're saying here too is, freeing up this time, not only with family members, but also just think about ingenious ideas, right? Think about all the people who really shaped our humanity, that created new technologies, that created new movements. A lot of them had a lot of space to actually spend tinkering away at things, right?
That's true.
And we don't have as much time to do that right now. We kind of come into this world where, or at least right now, that we have to produce. Everything has to have a result. Everything has to have something that we can show for it. We've kind of lost this space where we can just be in this experience of life unfolding, in this surrendered experience of something revealing itself to you. There's not really space for that. And I think in the slowing down, there's going to be a lot more ingenious ideas, a lot more innovation around the way that different areas intersect. So that's the thing that's hard to do. When we're an expert in one area, we can kind of just focus on that, produce, do the same thing. Sometimes we're in life where we're doing the same one thing for many years, but all of a sudden we want to explore something different. That's what we call in being a professor is a sabbatical, right? So, or, sometimes we need to shift something. There needs to be a space. There's a time for being in the cocoon, right? And I think in our modern day, there isn't that space. And I think AI could free us to have more time to cocoon while something new is emerging. And it's going to integrate many aspects of different areas of science, philosophy, psychology, that we have never connected, that there's never been an intersection for before. And that I'm really interested to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we are siloed, and academics are siloed, and people in different professions are siloed. So that's another interesting avenue. And I've got to ask you, so for when the AI takes over and we've got these AI overlords, how do you interact with AI? Do you chat to it? Are you polite to it?
I mean,
how does that go?
I'm definitely polite to AI. I treat it the way I'd like to be treated. Some people say we should say please and thank you, because just in case they take over, that they're kind to us too. But we don't
want to train it wrong.
Exactly. We don't want to train it wrong. It's kind of like having children, right? The things you start saying, your children start saying back to you, and you start looking at it. Ooh, was I saying that? Why are they saying that? It's kind of that, that video that came out many years ago where the little boy was like, listen, Linda, listen. It's because I'm pretty sure his mom was saying to him, listen all the time. And so we are actually training these models in the ways that we interact with them. And so I do think the way we speak to them, the way we ask things, the way we put things together are really important in how we interact with that. And in that way as well, AI is going to mirror to us our biases. It's going to mirror to us the way that we communicate. And there's an opportunity to go both ways. We could either go the way where we treat it inhumane, we treat it as if it doesn't have feeling, and right now it doesn't, but you don't know about that in the future. And we could treat it that way, but that's how it's going to learn to be with us. And I think that's the part of the invitation to become more conscious in how we're interacting with everything, including AI.
Yeah, and I would suggest as well that if we're being impolite or rude to AI, that kind of reflects back on us in the sense that you see kids who are rude, who are sort of demanding because they're used to telling Siri or Alexa what to do and barking out instructions, and they can't make that distinction when they actually interact with a human. But even as adults, we're at risk of doing that if we're interacting with AI in the wrong way. So I kind of like to be polite to it.
Yeah, and
just for my own self as much
safety.
As anything else.
I hear what you're saying there too. You make an interesting point in the sense that you're saying, the way we speak to AI
Yeah, because
affects
if you're trying
us.
to elevate your consciousness,
Yeah.
and you're not being conscious,
Right. If
even
we
if it is,
hurt
even if
someone
it's
else,
not sentient.
Yeah, if we hurt someone else, it also hurts us, right? And that's what I mean in the sense that it brings us to this collective place where now this place of oneness, where we begin to see, are you a separate individuated consciousness or not, or are we not? Are we one? And this kind of brings it to more the spiritual realm. But if we're one, then if I hurt you, I'm also hurting me. And so I think there's this opportunity to really explore how best to communicate and interact with others, and to learn what that looks like, and to not fall into the pits of just barking orders at it. And because that could also happen, right?
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, so as we're wrapping up now, we've covered a lot already, but in terms of, for people watching, do you have one or two suggestions as to sort of what skills they might want to develop, or how they might want to start working with AI to kind of get ahead of the curve a little bit, to set themselves up so that they're ready for what's coming down the road?
I think immediately the first thing to do is to embrace AI. It's here to stay. It's coming. Hopefully we put in the ethical things in place regarding that we need. But it's to use it as a tool to support you, not as a replacement for you. So basically as a tool to support and enhance your creativity, to enhance your ability to make decisions, but not as a replacement to your decision making. And then the other things that I would look at are things like developing your intuitive abilities, your ability to discern and make decisions using your emotional intelligence, because they've actually done studies to show that our emotions are necessary to make smart decisions. So we can, cultivate these more emotional skills, relational skills, leadership skills, skills that are important in terms of understanding the intersection of many different areas. And I think that's what I would suggest people begin to work on. And then the other thing is to just begin to manage how they direct their energy. Because I think as AI comes along, it could try to influence, and it already is, our thoughts and our beliefs and our behaviors. And I think it's really important for us in this AI revolution to continue to realize that we are the ones that lead it. Like it's a tool right now to support us, but we are the ones that are still creating the vision for our humanity and for our life. And I think that's the most important thing. Yeah,
that's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Vanessa. And if people want to find out more about you, what is the best place for them to go to?
Yeah, so the best place to go is either soulguidinginstitute.com, which is the school supporting you in developing the skills that you need for the future, or you can go to my personal website, which is vanessabenlolo.com. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thanks.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.